What is up, guys? It's Anfield here. This video is going to be a response video to Sliphantom, who in his comment section on his recent video on esports requested that I give feedback. I'm not going to do it in a comment section because I have way too many thoughts on this, so I'm going to do it in a video. Hope that's okay. If you guys don't know who Sliphantom is, how dare you? No, I'm just kidding. He makes the What Unicum guides. They're MLG style videos for World of Tanks. They're very, very funny. World of Tanks actually the main YouTube page put one of his videos on. So if you haven't seen them, check them out. I'll put them all in the description. Check his channel out. And yeah, so this video, I've already made it once, and it was over 14 minutes long, and his video is just short of 5 minutes, so I'm going to try and condense it down a little bit. Lots of thoughts on these things, so I'll try and summarize them a little bit better than I did the first time around. Okay, so getting stuck into the first point, Slip brings up that there's a huge gulf in prize pool money compared to two different games. World of Tanks WGLNA Finals, which Eclipse just won. Congrats to those guys. 75,000 for the winner. And Slip says that the Dota 2 Shanghai Major, which is going on right now, the winner will receive $1 million. And so he's comparing the two, which I think is very unfair. And mostly a moot point, I think. And the reason for that is Dota 2 uses crowdfunding, which World of Tanks does not. Wargaming puts up the money for their tournaments, whereas Valve puts up some money and then uses crowdfunding to fund the rest. For example, the International, you buy a compendium, 75% of the money bought goes to Valve, and then they put 25% into the international prize pool, which ended up being a huge amount last year. So, you know, there's a big difference there in how the money is obtained. It's also worth mentioning Dota 2 is one of the few companies that has such huge prize pools. For example, I think it was like 60 million for the international last year, whereas the League of Legends World Championship, which is the biggest esport, I think, was like 2 million. Which doesn't use crowdfunding. CSGO, again, is much less. I mean, if you look at last year's tournaments, a lot of the big tournaments with some of these big titles, even like Heroes of the Storm, CSGO, more like 250,000 was the total prize pool, which is pretty much in line with World of Tanks. So I don't really think prize pool's a big issue here, as far as I can see at least. So the next thing that Slip addresses is that the Wargaming Director of Esports states that the format issues were a big reason that World of Tanks Esports didn't take off. For example, you know, in pubs you play 15 versus 15, and there are 10 tiers of 15 versus 15, whereas esports is 768, which is 7 players playing to a 68 format team. Also, of course, it's attack defense. Obviously, most people don't play assault that much. Most games are standard, and again, 15 people. And Slip agrees that the format is an issue. However, he doesn't think it's the big issue. I greatly disagree. I think that the format was a huge issue. 742 was awful. We had a long time of 742, which was tier 8, 42 tier points. There were tier 1s being used for the 2 extra tier points that they're in there. It wasn't attack defense, it was standard, and it was campy, it was defensive, and it was boring. Then we moved to 754, which is much more exciting, much more fluid, helped in part by the tier 8 light tanks, but mostly by the attack defense format, which changed it dramatically. And now we have, of course, 768, which is tier 10. I think it's far more exciting to watch. The feedback has been really, really good for it. I enjoy it personally a lot. So I think, of course, the damage was done from 742, and it needs to recover from that, and people need to, you know, give it a try, and it is pretty entertaining. So the next thing that Slip tackles is related to the wargaming demographic, which was quoted by the director of esports as being a hurdle to overcome in terms of not knowing what Twitch is or watching Twitch at all, or knowing what esports is. I have to say, you know, I disagree that this doesn't have validity. I wouldn't put it as a major source of an issue, but I think it has a little bit at least. But again, you know, not a big part, but some validity to it. So then Slip moves on to propose what he thinks is the issue, which is game balance. So I could talk about this all day, and there are lots and lots of aspects to this, but I will go over it as fast as I can because this is already longer than Slip's video. Basically, I don't think game balance is the primary issue. Tier 10 esports, there is no game-breaking issue that is really crippling it, save for RNG, which Slip addresses in comments and with an annotation in his video that he disagrees with. I think the RNG is too high. RNG is fine, but it shouldn't be as high as it is. It does cause an issue when you're trying to be, a professional of the game, and there's a 25% random factor in a lot of things. It does cause some issues, certainly more than game balance. Game balance is more an issue when you come to pub battles. There's lots of imbalance there, things that can be addressed. Slip does talk about gold rounds. Again, certainly imbalanced and should definitely be changed. But the pro players don't mind too much. It doesn't bother them when they play. Believe me, we didn't really see it an issue when we were driving around. For me, it was tier 8. We didn't think, oh my god, this is dumb because they have auto pen rounds, which really wasn't the case. In fact, if anything, gold minimizes RNG when you have something that higher pen, more reliable. In pubs, it's certainly an issue. Not so much in esports, and going back to tank balances, at tier 10 it's pretty much okay when it comes to esports. You can look in pubs and say the E5, for example, is a current one that's was buffed accidentally and became too strong, but for the most part, it's not an issue that really presents itself in the esport format. So I guess it's not really relevant to this. Certainly for pubs, that's a completely different discussion though. So I'm trying not to cover everything simply because I'm already really long on this video, longer than I wanted to again. But Slip talks about people that play overpowered tanks to pad their stats. I don't understand how, first, this is an esport issue. Obviously, any esport team will see right through you. They can see through padded stats. It's very, very easy. They'll know whether you're good or not. They hold extensive tryouts and things like that. I don't understand how that's an esport thing. But even talking about pubs, I don't see how wargaming can be at fault for external metrics to their game. They can't control things like WN8. It's not something that really should be their concern or anything like that. And certainly people aren't using overpowered tanks to do this. They're just using low expected value tanks to pad their stats. And again, I don't see why wargaming should be too concerned about that. So Slip expands on this to talk about premium tanks. People whining about wargaming wanting to nerf an overpowered premium tank. Please do inform me which premium tank is overpowered. Again, not esports related, I don't think, as far as I'm aware. But if you know of a premium tank that is overpowered, I guess, still, even for pubs, I don't know. I mean, I saw in your comments that someone said IS6 overpowered, and I was like, really? Can't see how he got to that one. Of course, in 9.14, it may well be overpowered with this HD change. It may be the next T1 to E5, but right now, certainly not overpowered. So but esport related, I don't see how it's warranted to be brought up here. So Slip then moves on to his suggestions, his first of which being start giving a crap about the state of the game, which is more talking about, stop being greedy, and start improving the game. So I think this is more saying that it makes more financial sense to care about the game and make it a great game rather than just trying to milk it. You will get more money in the long term if you put more into it rather than just trying to milk it. I think this is where Slip is coming from, at least, which obviously is a fair point. Slip's next suggestion is for wargaming to stop listening to people that whine about tanks that wargaming plan to nerf, including premium tanks. This one I don't really fully agree with, because while it's important that wargaming understands that sometimes it's better not to listen to the community, that sometimes they don't know best. Some tanks they plan to nerf, and it's ridiculous. For example, the T1 to E5, when it was first introduced on the test server, was weakened by a great deal, and it was the most balanced tank in the game, and people were, don't nerf this tank. What are you doing nerfing this tank? Fair, which is fair. Unfortunately, Wargaming then went the opposite way. They changed armor values and it became way too strong. But the point is, you know, they're not always right to nerf things. So I think Wargaming, you know, can't just not listen to players in this regard. So his final suggestion is that you can't just throw money at esports and expect it to succeed, which is, of course, a very valid point. I do think that they've improved a lot from the past. You know, obviously talking about 742, things have come a long way. And, you know, now that they do have a format that is exciting and worth watching, we've made good progress. More needs to be done, but it's better than it has been. And he closes just saying, he says this all as a random pub player, hasn't played competitively before, so, you know, obviously you take it that as it is. Personally, obviously, I've played Wargaming League in a Gold League for a few seasons, so I have played competitively, and I do disagree on a few points that he's made, as you'll see. What I will also say is that it's important to understand that other games that are big esport titles, Dota 2, CSGO, League of Legends, they, for balance, they take their ideas and suggestions from their esports players. World of Tanks generally just does what they want, or they take it from the average population. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're right, you're wrong. But I would certainly say that it's important to understand that there are lots of differing opinions on things. Obviously, you and I, Slip, disagree greatly on artillery. You obviously don't mind artillery, think it's fine. And I don't think it's fine at all. So, you know, who's right? Who should Wargaming listen to? Obviously, it's a, you know, big debate kind of thing. So, lots of different aspects and differing opinions. So this is how I feel, just in terms of your video. You asked me for feedback. This is what it is. I could probably make a 30-minute video on all this stuff, and I skipped a little bit of stuff that I deemed slightly less important to talk about, because this is already a long video. But hopefully you don't hate me too much for disagreeing on a few things there. But again, I love your videos, and those of you that have stuck to the end of this video, let me remind you again, please watch his Unicum guides. So funny, and keep that up, because it's really a gift to the community. So yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching.